My name is Captain Jeff Plummer, and I am the commanding officer at Naval Hospital Guam. As our command transitions to the newest hospital in the Navy and the fourth location for our command, we've run across various stories from sailors and Marines, soldiers and airmen, and many who have been cared for at the Naval Hospital during its historic 115 years of service to the Pacific. Today, we will hear another one of those stories from retired Lieutenant General Lawrence Snowden. Welcome, sir. Thanks for being here. I appreciate the time that you've given us, and thank you for letting these hospital corpsmen join us today for a quick conversation. As the senior surviving veteran from the Battle of Iwo Jima, I got to tell you, on behalf of all of us, it's proud for us to sit here and an honor to be with you. And we were hoping you'd be able to tell us a little bit about your first visit to the Naval Hospital Guam, and maybe the circumstances that not only led up to that, but that allowed you to go back to Iwo Jima.
Well, I'm always pleased to talk about it since I'm a survivor. And I certainly want to tell you at the outset something you already know. Marines love their corpsmen.
Yes, sir.
And I would start by telling you that I think the system that we had in World War II, in which the chaplains, the doctors, the corpsmen were attached to and lived with the units to which they were assigned. Now, that was important because it built a great deal of confidence between the Marines and the medical staff. And I can tell you that I never met a corpsman who I didn't think was a superb guy. And I had the benefit of receiving their service. Well, it kind of starts with me on Iwo Jima. I was a captain, Marine Corps, and I commanded a rifle company in the 2nd Battalion, 23rd Regiment, 4th Marine Division. And we landed on Yellow Beach 2, almost directly opposite the turnaround of the first airfield. And our objective was to land by LVT, tracked vehicle, and proceed inland to capture that first airfield. That was our objective. Well, unfortunately, from the time that I saw some aerial photos which were dropped to me on the LST, and incidentally, I rode an LST all the way from Pearl Harbor to Iwo Jima, so I was ready to get off. Yes, but the aerial photos of the beach showed just a kind of a normal beach, and I was experienced by that time. It turns out when I got to the beach in my LVT, there was a sand berm there for over 15 feet high, and my tractor couldn't traverse that berm. We got halfway up the berm and spun around and stopped. So I yelled to my guys, bail out. In those days, we didn't have a ramp on either the front or the back of an LVT. It was just open well deck. So we all bailed out and jumped in the nearest bomb crater we could find. You couldn't dig a foxhole in that ash, so we just jumped into a bomb crater. Well, as the time went on, we moved up across the airfield and turned north and headed along with the 5th Division and elements of the 3rd Marine Division, headed north to secure the whole island. The Japanese had a weapon, a 362 millimeter spigot mortar. Pretty crude instrument, really. And it was launched on wooden rails. And when they launched this thing on the wooden rails, you could hear the screeching of it all over the island. I don't care where you were. And those of us on the grunt level, we heard the screech, so we looked up to see if we could find this thing. And we found it many times because it tumbled like a 40-gallon trash can. It just tumbled to the end. And we would look up, and if we could find it, we put a finger on it. If it stayed on my finger, we moved, because that meant it was coming my way. If it moved one way or the other, we stood still and didn't worry about it. We didn't think it could get to me. Well, it's a truism, I think, that on the battlefield you never hear the one that gets you. And I didn't hear the spigot mortar that got me. When it exploded somewhere between 20 and 30 yards away from me, it so shattered the shell casing that I got a whole flock of little pieces of fragments in the back of my head, between my helmet and my utility cover, my utility jacket. Both my hands were exposed, so it took a lot of fragments. So between all this bloody mess and bloody mess back here, I looked like I was in pretty bad shape. Well, a corpsman bandaged me up, gave me a shot of morphine, and was able to get a couple of guys to drag me back a little ways, and then got me on a stretcher and took me down to the beach to be evacuated. And I was evacuated to the USS Good Samaritan. Hospital ship.
Yes, sir.
Well, overnight, in the run through Guam, the nurses on board there cleaned me up. They took the bandages off and cleaned up and put some bandages back on, but what it told me is, by the time the doctor got to see me the next morning, I said, "Doctor, I'm wounded, but not badly." And I realized that, as I see now and then, I realized that I was a bloody mess, but I'm okay. And I want to go back to Iwo Jima. He said, "No, they're not letting any wounded go back." And I said, "Well, that may be the policy, but where there's a policy, there's somebody can make exceptions." So he gave me a Liberty Pass. I went out on the road outside the hospital compound and caught the first Jeep that came down and went to the forward headquarters of Fleet Marine Force Pacific, which was located in Honolulu. And the colonel in charge there had a son in the 14th Marines, the artillery regiment in the 4th Division, whom I knew very well. So I had a bond with the colonel right off, because I talked about his son before I got around to my business. And I finally said, "Colonel, I would really like to go back to Iwo Jima." He said, "Well, we aren't sending anybody back." I said, "Colonel, let me tell you why I want to go back. I don't want to go back there because I'm a hero. I've had enough of that fighting already. But let me tell you, those Marines on Iwo Jima are my family. I have a wife and a son back in the United States I haven't seen for a year and a half. But during that year and a half, those young Marines up there, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, those are my family. We have eaten together, we've played together, we've trained together, we shared our problems. That's my family. Besides that, I can't stand the thought of being down here on this island and they're up there fighting for their lives." "Well," he said, well, okay, tell you what I'll do," he said. "Tomorrow morning we're sending the first aircraft up there with blood plasma and the first bags of mail. I'm going to send you down the airfield, and if you can find that pilot, and if he will agree that you can get on, I'll let you go back." Well, about that time he was making that decision, in walked another captain from the artillery regiment, and he said he would like to go. So the colonel said, "Okay, all right, just the two of you, but that's it." So we went down the airfield. We found the pilot. The pilot said, "Well, it's cold back there, no heat. But," he said, "if you can find a Marine Corps green blanket to get under it, you can lie on top of the mail sacks, and we'll get you back to Iwo Jima." And that's exactly what we did. We flew back up there, cold, miserable, but we were back. So when we got back on island, I reported to my regiment and was sent back down to my company. It so happens fate was with me, I suppose. 24 hours later, another mortar round came in pretty close and blew out my hearing. Oh, wow. Well, that didn't require an evacuation, so I said, that, "How about if I just go to the regimental CP and let them fix it?" So I did that. It so happens that during that night, while I was at the regimental CP trying to get my hearing back, there was a vicious attack against my battalion. And you know, God works in mysterious ways. And I don't know why, but he didn't let me be up there when that fight was going on. I'm not sure I'd be here today had I been.
Right.
But it was bad enough that the regimental executive officer had to come down and take command of the battalion because I lost the battalion commander, badly wounded. But the fact is that once I was back there after that, I stayed with the company until we finished the operation on the 26th of March. And so, put it in perspective to the question you asked. I have a very fond memory and appreciation for Fleet Hospital 115, which it was called in those days, right here on the island. And the fine way they treated me gave me complete confidence that I was really going to be okay. And pure coincidence, the first nurse that came to see me as I was in the bunk and started to get these dressings off or anything was a graduate of the University of Virginia Nursing School, where I received my degree.
Wow.
So we had a little hometown visit about
yes,
nursing in the University of Virginia. Anyway, thanks to good treatment here and cooperative staff, I was able to go back, which is what I sincerely wanted to do. Then there's another phase two, really, of my relationship with the hospital. After the Iwo Jima operation, the 3rd Marine Division, located on Guam, was scheduled to land in Western Kyushu on 1 November 1945. But the 3rd Division had been overseas a long time, so Headquarters Marine Corps directed the 4th Marine Division to send 30, quote, combat experienced captains and majors to the 3rd Marine Division on Guam.
Right.
Well, I had had experience.
I'd say you fit that bill.
Yeah, I had experience. I landed in Roy and Namur, and I fought on Saipan, and I fought on Tinian, and I had Iwo Jima.
Yes, sir.
That's about as much confidence in combat experience that you need to have.
Yes, sir.
Well, anyway, I got to the 3rd Division, and I picked up another rifle company. I got Easy Company in the 3rd Marine Regiment.
On Guam?
On
Guam?
Guam, yeah.
Okay.
And we were going to land on 1 November 45 in Western Kyushu. Well, the point about the connection with the hospital is I'm back, I'm a captain, and about every 10 days or 2 weeks, you could volunteer for a visit to the hospital, not for medical treatment, but to have dinner with the nurses. And you went over and had dinner, and they had a disc jockey, and you maybe danced a number or two.
Yeah.
Coaster supervised. We always had a senior officer who went along.
Right.
And
but there's
kept
nothing
us
like a
in
little
line.
R&R, right?
But kind of a modest R&R.
Yeah,
and it was,
sure.
I think it was good for the morale of the nurses, and certainly good for morale of the Marines involved. But that was kind of a phase two, and a very pleasant relationship that I had with the hospital. It just so happens that in the coming back through Guam, headed to Iwo Jima for these reunions of honor, I've had occasion to visit the hospital.
Yes, sir.
And always was received with the greatest courtesy and given prompt attention, and I've appreciated that. So I would just tell you, that's a long answer to the question you posed, but
that's a great
let me tell you, I have
sir.
nothing but the fondest memories of Fleet Hospital 115, and I'm delighted for your staff as well as the local military population that you're going to have this new hospital.
Yes,
with
sir.
state-of-the-art equipment. That's a giant step forward.
Well, we're pretty excited, but to hear how the folks that have come before us, my generation, their generation, at the command, were able to take care of you, put you back in the fight, and then get to see you again, on numerous occasions. I don't know. It's a good connection to us, to your era.
That's been good for me. Well, I stood on the top of the shoulders of giants, those PFCs and corporals who did the fighting up there, for which I got a lot of credit.